welcome back to the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast. My name is Ren.
And my name is Emily. And in this podcast, we talk about all things Stranger Things.
Before we get into it, I just want to say a little thank you because we've had quite a fair few people come and join us recently across our various platforms, which is super exciting. And we love that you guys are loving the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast as much as we love making the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast.
It's really nice that we've been looking and it's just like, where are you coming from? But thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it, and just we're glad that you like hearing us talk about Will Byers.
Literally, if you missed our last episode, it was all about Will Byers. So if you want to go give the boy the love that he deserves, make sure you go check out our last episode if you did miss it. Today we were gonna talk about the 80s themes, literally have it in my little podcast book, made some notes, ready to talk about it, and then Netflix did a thing, and they dropped a tiny teaser, which we predicted back in May. Like
we did.
So like
down to the
day, like, which was brilliant. If you saw our episode where we spoke about the 11 Are You Listening teaser that we got, we literally were saying in that we thought that at that time it was 6 months until Stranger Things Day, which is the 6th of November, and this was the 6th of May. So we were saying, okay, in 3 months, the 6th of August, we'll get another one, and then 3 months after that, on Stranger Things Day, we'll get another one. And on the 6th of August, we didn't get 003, but we did get a teaser.
6 seconds of footage.
6 seconds of season 4 footage. And we were on the phone, and I said, do you think we can make a whole podcast episode out of 6 seconds? And Emily was like, I mean, it's us. There's a lot to discuss. Let's unpack it. Let's do a full episode. So 80s themes coming next week. This episode, we are going to dive into the 6 seconds of season 4 footage and talk about what we think is going on in season 4 based on what we were given yesterday.
But wait, before we get into that, you can find us at many places. And those places, they are Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher at Hawkins Do You Copy. Then you can find us on our social medias on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Hawkins Podcast, and on YouTube and Tumblr at Hawkins Do You Copy. Question of the week this week, for those of you that are on the Instagram, was, what theories do you have about Stranger Things? And this was like a general theory thing. It was, what theories do you personally like? Do you have any theories that you think? How do you think the show is going to end? And we got a couple of responses, which I'll go through now. So we had the upside down is future Earth, or a universe where the Mind Flayer terraformed / or the US tried to nuke it. I feel we've spoken about that one before.
Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I think there is still a possibility that could be a thing, especially with the pictures that we definitely haven't seen from what we're going to presume is the end pictures of season 4. It's not looking great.
Haven't seen anything.
Haven't seen
don't know what you're talking about.
No, if you know, but if there were photos out there, it's still a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the end of season 4, and just sort of like Hawkins in general, like the fate of Hawkins, I don't know. It makes sense to me with, with the upside down kind of being this parallel thing, is that Hawkins' ultimate end goal kind of thing, because that's what Hawkins is going to become. So it is kind of like a future loop thing. I find that an interesting theory.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised at the future loop thing. I strongly stand by the future loop theory. I also stand by the idea of kind of like 2 timelines working in parallel. I think I've said this on here before, that they kind of merge at the end of season 4 or whatever. Yeah. Which, okay, but then that's that one. We then had, I don't know how Stranger Things will end, but I theorize it will be an unhappy ending brought on by a huge plot twist. I also stand by that. I don't think Stranger Things is going to end happy. We spoke on this before on that. Or if it does end happy, it'll be kind of like a bittersweet note rather than, like a overall happy, everyone's everyone's married in the future and it's all very good. It's not gonna, if it ends like that, I'll
They
be shocked.
Yeah, the Duffers do bittersweet really well, I think. Like if you
Yeah.
think about the ending of all the other ones, of like all of the seasons and like elements of it, like quite a lot of it is bittersweet.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what we'll get. It won't be a complete happy ending for everybody. And I kind of had that moment yesterday where it kind of fully hit me that I think that's what it's gonna end like. Like I'd always kind of assumed probably, but yesterday was kind of the time where I had this moment of I think we're not gonna get a really, really happy. Mike and Ellen married with little like power babies, and like Hopper and Joyce are together and they adopt, like they're all one family. Like, I don't think we're gonna get that. I think there's gonna be losses, and I think there's gonna be realities that we have to face in regards to how the gate can be closed and like powers and what that means for people. And I don't know, I can't see it ending happy either.
No. And then finally, Hopper is Jonathan's dad, which we've spoken on here before.
My favorite theory.
We'll see. I wouldn't be opposed.
I want it, and like I really want it.
We'll see. Anyway, yeah, thank you for those. If you have not said a theory, you can find it on our Instagram. If you reply to, we've put a little picture up with where the question on it, and we do it every week. It's either a Thursday or Friday, depending on when we feel like it. So keep an eye on our stories and follow us on Instagram, and we'll do it all on there. We did also ask reactions to the trailer, but we'll get into that when we properly get into it, which we're about to right now.
So for those that haven't seen, Netflix dropped a trailer that was like a Stranger Things will return in 2022, which
how's that ballpark looking? It's looking great, isn't it?
Yeah, Sean Levy said that we would have a ballpark, and I mean 2022 is probably not as specific a ballpark as I would have particularly liked, but it is a ballpark nonetheless. 2022, we're getting it next year. So what you said last week, Emily, about there being 3 Stranger Things days before we get season 4 will be correct. We will have had 3 Stranger Things days before we get season 4 of Stranger Things.
What a joy that day is. Anyway, no, he spoke about it in an article. You can, I mean, it's not as relevant now because obviously the little teasers come out, but you can find it pretty much if you Google Sean Levy Stranger Things 4, I'm sure it'll come up.
Yeah, he's promoting his new film,
Free Guy, which looks really good actually.
It does,
yeah.
Good cast.
little side note there.
Yeah.
Free Guy, congratulations, it looks great. So I mean, I think they call it a trailer. No, they call it a teaser, don't they?
Or sneak peek. It was a sneak peek, I think is what it says on the Netflix YouTube channel.
And it is very much a sneak peek, isn't it? So before we properly analyze, let's talk about what we didn't get, which I think is more interesting. We didn't really get any of the Byers.
No.
Or Mike.
No.
The Mike one intrigues me more than the Byers, because I feel like we're not going to be seeing them until, I'm going to presume, teaser 004.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'm intrigued that we saw Elle though. I'm surprised that we saw her, and yeah, it just intrigues me. So that's what we didn't get in it. We did, however, get a lot of what is going on. I say a lot. We got a little bit of footage of what is going on in Hawkins. So we saw a clock.
We did,
which we know is one of the motifs of season 4, apparently. So we saw our new favorite gang of Steve, Nancy, and Robin, and then Dustin, Max, and Lucas investigating what looks like some kind of house. I won't go into any more on that house. So we saw them investigating that. And we saw Steve underwater.
Yeah, like fully submerged as well. Like that, it didn't even look like a swimming pool or something. Like it
Yeah.
looked like murky, like horrible water. I mean, it could potentially be like a nightmare or something's going on with him.
Mm.
I don't know, but he was underwater. He was shirtless too. Like he was
Yeah.
like
Like
yeah,
it's fully underwater. It's a
yeah,
fully underwater situation. There was
yeah.
algae and everything.
No, but it did. Like it looked really
Yeah.
horrible. Like it looked like a really murky.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the lakes in Hawkins, I guess. Lovers
Could be one
Lake
of
and
those, I guess,
the
maybe. I don't know.
quarry.
Oh, it could be the quarry.
Then what's going on? Why is Steve underwater?
Who knows? And we also saw I guess our first proper glimpse of Hopper. Like we obviously
We
saw him in the Russia with Love
did.
trailer, but we saw him, which very much in what does not look like a Russian camp, with a flamethrower.
Jim's bringing
Um,
the heat, to quote David Harbour.
there we go.
Jim's
He
bringing
is
the heat.
he is bringing the heat indeed. I think that's pretty much all of the obvious stuff that
Yeah.
we saw. Obviously, there were a few. Obviously, we saw Elle being taken away, but I think it was figured out that it was one of the new characters.
Yes.
People kind of match. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was the Lieutenant Sullivan. That's what people were presuming. I mean, there is kind of a likeness between them, so it could be, which leads to some questions about why he's doing that.
Yeah, because his character description is that he thinks he knows how to stop the awful in Hawkins, which, you know, if he's taking L,
Hmm.
that's slightly concerning, and a bit worrying, and that really stresses me out.
Yeah, there we go. We saw a glimpse of the Hellfire Club very briefly.
Very
Um,
briefly.
very, very briefly. So I don't know. I mean, it could have been Dustin, it could have been Eddie. Who knows at this point?
Could have been someone else, you know, we don't know yet the full extent of who is in the Hellfire Club.
Exactly. There could have been more members of the Hellfire
Mm.
Club that
Mm-hmm.
we definitely don't know about. Some spare characters, for example, that
Mm-hmm.
have not really been mentioned much
No.
at all. We then saw another, almost like a continuation, I presume, of the 11 You Listening teaser. And we
Yeah, we
saw a
did.
little glimpse of Elle in the lab. This was something I found quite interesting online, that a lot of people were saying that it could be a flashback, but she did look older.
She
And
did.
because of her being able to look through the window, of course, it could have been just very, very low, very, very low glass. But she did look a bit older to me, I thought. I didn't,
Mm.
I don't know.
Which is stressful because when she's looking through the glass, she doesn't have the hair that she's got in the rest of the trailer.
No.
So if it is older Elle, is the people taking, like, how are the people taking her back into some kind of lab situation, which
Yeah.
stresses me out quite a bit.
Yeah. I would maybe err on the idea that maybe it is more of a flashback, only because we had the 11 You Listening teaser.
Yeah.
And I'm going to presume that whatever it is, I'm going to presume that's some kind of nightmare sequence sort of thing. So I'm guessing that would be part of that as well.
Yeah.
One clip that has apparently taken Instagram, for example, by wildfire, so to speak, is the clip of we're going to presume a teenage boy looking at a car on fire. There have been many mixed things on this, on who it possibly is.
Okay,
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I sent Emily a crackpot theory voice note. And I love a crackpot theory. Like I love them with books, with movies, with TV shows, just kind of coming up with the most ridiculous theories and kind of clinging to it, because I think sometimes you end up being right. Like, and I don't think I'm right with this, but like, think about like when I messaged you about the wizard hat.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if he's dressed as a wizard with a wizard hat? Like we predicted the color. I was like, it'll be purple. Like we were spot on. And then a few months later, they released a picture of Will dressed as a wizard in the hat. And like at the time, I would have said that was a crackpot theory, wouldn't you? Like, would we have thought that was the...
I mean, I don't think Will the Wise was exactly predictable, was it?
No, not like that. So, you know, we love a crackpot theory. So before we get into like the more realistic theories of what that is, my crackpot theory was that it was a younger Will, because Will's had powers this whole time, because I've like gone and like hooked on to the idea that the lab has always been in Hawkins, so maybe, and because they live kind of near it, maybe something affected even Joyce, because she is kind of, I'm saying force sensitive, which is something I said last week, and we're just going to go with force sensitive because there's so many Star Wars references in Stranger Things anyway. You know, like Joyce is kind of a bit force sensitive, so is Jonathan when they're in the house in season 1, and he knows what's going through and what's setting the lights off. And we know Will is as well. So are they force sensitive, as has Will always had powers? There's also the crackpot theory that in order to get a bit of money, Lonnie took part in paid MK Ultra things. So has Will had powers the whole time? And is this little Will being unable to control his powers and causing the car to be set on fire? That's the crackpot theory. Very aware that it does not look like little Will. The more you look into it, it doesn't look like a younger child. But there's my crackpot theory, putting it out there just in case by some ridiculousness, like the Will the Wise hat, I am right.
Okay, so here's what I thought. My initial thoughts was, oh my gosh, it's Will Byers, naturally.
Yeah.
Then I kept thinking, is this Peter Ballard? Like a younger Peter Ballard.
Yeah, I did also wonder that.
And this is purely because we have had some suspicions about Peter on here before, that I think we've discussed the possibility that he's a number. We've discussed that, yeah, exactly, that he just generally is not overall a great person, to be honest. We've said about this before, and I don't know, I just think it's so obscure that naturally you are going to think, oh my gosh, is that Will? Because it could still be Will.
It could be Will.
From behind, Jonathan, it looks like it could be Will. Could be Mike, who knows? Maybe Mike really is just having a crisis and just set fire to a car. Who knows? There were some suspicions maybe it was Jonathan as well. I've seen a few of that floating around, but I don't know. I just think if we've discussed the possibility that Peter is obviously not necessarily the villain of it, but we think that he's not as nice guy as this shows. And I don't know, it'd be quite a way to introduce it without really introducing it, wouldn't it? Just put like an odd 2-second snippet, make you like redirect it to be someone else, but actually in fact it be the villain of the show or whatever.
Yeah, I think that it would be really cool if it was him. It makes me think back to the 6 comics, and I know that
I can't the 6 comics actually.
Yeah, and I know that we don't know like 100% what we can take as canon, and there are some discrepancies within the comic books and the physical books comic books and physical books, like the novel books, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that obviously we can't completely take them as canon, but when Francine in 6, who is number 6, is kind of seen, she's living her life normally, being able to predict the future and, you know, doing like lottery numbers and that kind of thing. And she meets number 3, whose mom, his mum has known Brenner, and kind of he's done work for Brenner, and he gets Francine kind of involved with the whole MK Ultra situation because of her powers, and he has powers as well. I think you also said that it looked like a different era kind of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily look like it's in the era, which I know is stupid because it's just a road of trees.
No,
but I didn't get the vibe that it was necessarily 80s.
No, I could get like 70s, like late 60s, 70s kind of vibes. So it really made me think of the comics, and it made me wonder if, you know, Peter is a number or someone else is a number, you know, if it is a number, then was that them pre being in the lab, pre being involved with MK Ultra? Because I think it's safe to assume, as of what we know right now, that Elle is the only one that was there since birth. Everyone else was brought in later, depending on their ages and depending on, but like I think Elle was the only one that he had from a baby, which I think is why he's a little bit more possessive of her and the way that he is with her as well, and sort of singles her out a bit more. Because also she's a scientific, you know, if we're coming up, not to defend Brenner in the slightest, but if we're looking at the situation from a scientific point of view, he's going to be looking at it in the, okay, Terry was an MK Ultra participant, and it's now proven that if you're a participant and you have a child, those powers could potentially be passed down to that child, and that child can be stronger than you.
In scientific terms, she's almost like a medical marvel.
She is like, yeah, 100%. She's a researcher's dream, because
scientific terms, medical marvel is the least scientific term. And you know what I mean?
No, yeah. she's a researcher's dream. Like, she massively would be, you know, there would be papers written about her if he was still legally allowed to be doing these experiments, which at this point he's supposed to have stopped. Shouldn't have been doing them in the first place, but yeah. So, you know, that's kind of so maybe it is a number before they went in, and this was kind of their powers. Firestarter, I think, also was an influence, not particularly for season 4, but just kind of an overall influence for Stranger Things. And for those that don't know, Firestarter is a book by Stephen King, and Charlie, who is the girl, she's a little girl in it, and her dad Andy are on the run from the US government because Andy and his wife were MK Ultra participants, and Charlie also has powers. Now, Charlie's powers are not that she starts fires. She has other powers, but because she's younger, her control is not as good. So when she uses her powers, she sets fire to other things. And that kind of reminded me of that as well. Like, is it having this power, but this unstable control over that power as well? Because that car is on fire. That is like, it's like tipped over done. So I definitely kind of got the 6 comics vibes. I did get Firestarter vibes. And I also kind of agree with you that even though it is just a shot, like just one shot, it just felt like not like a flashback, but it felt different.
Yeah. I think because it does kind of contrast the rest of the sneak peek, because a lot of it's quite dark and it's there, and you have just that flash of light, and you're drawn immediately towards that. So I suppose from I don't want to say from a marketing point of view, because I don't know if they're thinking like this, but you focus on that scene because it intrigues you. It's like, why is this suddenly different, and why are we seeing something that we haven't necessarily seen before in this context? So I don't know. It is interesting. I mean, give me Firestarter Will Buyers, like absolutely.
Please.
But I, purely for the fact we have not seen Joyce and we have not seen Jonathan, I would presume it's not him, because which it does frustrate me, because I think you're going to give us Hopper, but you're not going to show us any of the buyers. But
they're keeping their buyers very under wraps, and I'm very intrigued by it. But I also agree with you that I'm very intrigued as to why they're doing that. But that's a whole family. They're trying to keep a secret of where they've moved to and what's going on. Totally fine. Get that. Why Mike, though?
I mean, I think it's kind of a given that Mike is not going to be staying in Hawkins. I mean, he's not in any of those clips.
No.
So, I mean, Mike is... If he's there, he's not there for long, is he?
Because, I was going to say, yeah. And
Erica is on there on a bike. Erica
yeah,
is now
Erica's the
Flayer.
4th. Erica's like now the 4th one.
Yeah.
But also I think it's pretty safe to say as well that we can, I mean, I think we can say this because it's just what we know, like Noah Schnapp in Fan Meos has said about filming this season with Finn and there being lots of Will and Mike. And
how's the way he's worded it? I think he said it's more like, I mean, in fairness, people have come into it asking probably from a shipping point of view, but take away that context, he has said that, you know, that you'll see them talk and stuff like that in season 4.
They've got to be together, like they've got to be in the same vicinity.
Not to say that there are pictures, but there literally are not pictures of the buyers at all. So maybe the buyers are just now the pizza van. Maybe that's what they are, and who knows, because there is nothing of them whatsoever, which is intriguing in a sense, because it makes you think, then why is that so under wraps? But then people can literally sit, I presume, on a chair and just watch as like Joe, Gate and Sadie are running down a hill. Like I don't get it. It is really interesting. But yeah, that's why, I mean, I am though surprised. I mean, I'm going to presume that if Mike goes, it's not going to be right at the beginning of the season, because we obviously the cheerleader, which I think is Chrissy. So that's confirmed that the cheerleader is Chrissy. So I am surprised that we're not seeing him at all, because that suggests there is some early footage. I mean, this is presuming that Mike goes like slightly later in the season, that there is some footage while they're at school, and as far as I know, Mike goes to school in Hawkins. So there could have been one clip of him.
Yeah, and I mean, not to say we've seen anything, because we haven't seen
we've seen nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but you know, if hypothetically speaking, someone were to see if there were any pictures, which I don't know, because I haven't seen anything.
No.
There might be one particular picture which could suggest that Mike's in Hawkins, but I wouldn't know that because I haven't seen anything. So interesting that we don't see him in the trailer.
Hypothetically, if you were to have joined a club, hypothetically, and we saw a little clip of a club, we saw 2 clubs, technically cheerleading as a club, I guess. If you were to join one of 2 clubs, I am surprised they didn't show it.
Because also
Mike Wheeler's a cheerleader. Can you imagine that?
Please give me that. That's what I want. That's why they're keeping it under wraps.
He's actually
he's actually a cheerleader.
Hawkins High School. It's his new profession now.
Please. Because also, right, didn't Finn Wolfhard do a cameo and he was like, it was really hard to run up that hill?
Yeah, he literally said they were filming one. Yeah, Finn has literally said there was one part they were filming in Hawkins, and it was with Gayton, and he had to run up and down this hill so many times. So we know he was filming.
Yeah,
we know he's been filming. So
we know he's been filming in Hawkins, and hypothetically, if you looked for pictures of said scene, hypothetically they could exist, but I don't know because I haven't seen that. But
so no, it just intrigues me then why. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is because his storyline is going to be a lot more wrapped up in the buyers, and it was kind of a case of we'll just cut them out,
keep it,
and so he's cut out by default. But then they showed Elle, and I would have thought that would be a lot more revealing, because that's not the most. I mean, we don't get a lot from that scene, but they don't exactly look like friendly people trying to take her.
No, and she looks like they're on she looks like she's on a road. Like she's just on a road. Like, where is she? What's happened? She kind of looks like she's looking at someone as well. Like she's being held back, but it's like she's kind of looking at someone else.
Yeah, it's what I find interesting about that is that she doesn't mean, she looks distressed, but she's not exactly fighting it.
No.
So
No, it's
that's
not like she's
what's-
looking at them and like trying to.
No. Like she's obviously she's not willingly going,
No,
but she's not exactly going, get off of me.
no,
I mean, she might have done that before. Obviously, we don't have the whole clip,
no.
but I don't know. It is intriguing.
It is intriguing. I feel like we're not talking about the big thing as well.
What is the big thing?
Elle has a fringe.
Elle with fringe era. I am absolutely here for it.
Absolutely here for it. She looks like if I had watched that without my glasses on, I would have thought that was Winona.
Netflix today, actually. At the time of recording this, we're recording this on Saturday. Netflix actually put a picture up. I think Netflix UK.
Oh my god!
Of like, it's the same person.
But she looks like Winona.
She does look like Winona in it.
Like mother, like daughter. Oh my god! Literally, they do. It's the same person. It is.
Yeah.
I will, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you want to go watch this on YouTube, I will insert that image that Netflix have done. Obviously, credit to Netflix on Instagram, but
is it Netflix or Netflix UK?
Netflix UK and Ireland.
Yeah. So if you're not watching on YouTube, literally go on Netflix UK. It'll be one of the first few posts. I mean, they act quick, but you'll see it on. You'll know what one we mean.
That's quite funny. They do that. Literally, she looks like Winona,
Yeah,
which I think
really
is maybe intentional. Can we talk about what me and you spoke about yesterday on the phone? In that, like, her hair is darker and she has a fringe to kind of look like Winona. Are they trying to? I keep saying Winona, like to look like Joyce, but like Winona.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going down a Will and Ella twins route, and she's been made to look more like a Byers?
I think it's the easiest option.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could get away with a sister in another aspect if Joyce acted quickly, so to speak. You could get away with that, but then she would be the year above. She wouldn't be in the same year, and I'm presuming they're going to be in the same year. They could be cousins, but then I feel like it gets a bit fussy. It's probably, I think the easiest thing to do is to be like, yes, this is Elle and her twin brother Will.
Yeah.
And go from
like,
there. I mean,
hair's darker, the fringe. I feel like they've tried to kind of not hide Elle, but she's going to school. If she's going out into this kind of the world now, then maybe they could have changed her name possibly, and then trying to kind of hide her identity, because to protect her as well, like there's
is
essentially
she gonna be Jane Byers.
Is she gonna be Jane Byers? She could be, because she's Jane Hopper, isn't she, on her like birth certificate that Owens does it. She's Jane Hopper. So maybe Sam Owens has kind of helped them out again, and Jane Byers, and that's kind of what she goes by to kind of hide her identity, because also like they do have to be careful. I know that people talk a lot about Hopper and Mike and kind of looking out for her, and Hopper kind of keeping her in the cabin for so long and whatever, but there is also the reality that there could be people that aren't so nice that are after her. So
also, at the end of season 2, if you think what Nancy and Jonathan did, they had released everything about the lab just to all the news crews, all of them. So and obviously we saw at the end of season 3 we had that clip which was on I can't remember the name of the channel. Was it News? It wasn't News Today, it was something, whatever it was. And then talking about Hawkins and how it's like welcome to hell and satanic panic, and it's all very central about. So people are gonna know that something has gone on, and even if they don't directly go, hang on, I recognize her, they'll, if a mysterious girl, for example, turns up to the Byers' house like, oh yeah, this has been Will's twin sister all along, didn't you know? They can't stay there anymore. They had to move purely for that idea.
Exactly. So I think she does also kind of need that protection, and I think that protection has to be realistic. Like, and I think it's right to put her out into the world, and I think it's right to make sure that she can kind of have a life that was taken from her, because obviously so much of her life was hidden and so much was taken from her. But I do think they have to be careful. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did go down this is Jane and William Byers and they're twins.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
I would like that.
I'd
There's
like
a little
it.
part of me that just kind of would really like that. I think it would be really sweet.
Yeah. And it gives them an excuse to actually interact.
Please.
Because I mean, unless they just really don't get along as twins, but that'll be a bit more awkward to explain away. Just let them in, let them talk. Let them say one word to each other. That's all I
Power
ask for.
siblings.
One word that isn't the feeling when you go on a roller coaster. No. One word that isn't that. I mean, was that literally all they said to each other?
Pretty much, yeah, I think.
Just no and roller coaster. Great, thanks. Yeah, so hopefully, you know, more of that. But yeah, I think that's how they're gonna pass her in season 4, personally.
Yeah, I agree. She definitely looks more Byersy.
She definitely looks more Byersy. They've done something.
Yeah.
There we go. Obviously, we haven't spoken much about the Hawkins crew, actually, from what we've seen of them.
So excited though. Like, actually, kind of aside from like the mystery of like the rest of it that we were kind of talking about, I don't think I kind of fully let myself acknowledge how excited I am just to see everyone again, and like that they're kind of investigating things, and there's this kind of little mishmash found family group that they've all ended up back together regardless of their story in season 4. They've all kind of, they're all there, and Erica's there, and like I don't know, like it was really nice to see that they're all there. And yeah,
I'm so excited to see Nancy, Robin, Steve.
Yes,
I'm really intrigued to know how that's going to work as a unit.
Yes.
Are they going to get along? Are they not get along? Steve's kind of like in the middle mediating for a bit. It's just going to be, I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see. I can see them working.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted Steve Nancy friendship post season 1 because they just didn't really give it. So you know what I mean? Just give us more of that. It's a shame that Jonathan isn't there, because it would have been nice to have the OG monster cronting, the original monster hunting crew plus Robin back together. But I don't know. I mean, Robin can be a nice replacement for Jonathan in the little trio. I think just it'd be nice, and it'd be nice to see them now working with. I'm going to get the names right this time. Them now working with Austin, Max, and Lucas as well. And obviously, I mean, we didn't see much of Erica when she was in the house, but I'm presuming she's going to work with them as well. It's just going to be nice to see that group really working, and how their storyline is going to clearly be working in tangent, but so separate from whatever is going on with the buyer. So will they be contacting them and being like, hi, stuff is going down?
Help.
Or is it going to be, or is it going to be we're keeping this to ourselves, and then by some coincidence they are like, hi, our town is weird, and it comes together that way. It's the clocks intrigue me because I still don't really properly know what these mean.
I'm wondering if it's like time's running out.
Yeah, if it's more metaphorical and it's almost like a countdown, like doomsday clock situation. So as it reaches midnight, it's like that's it. And I don't know, because I mean, we didn't really get any hints of time travel, I don't think.
No, I feel like the time travel theory, unfortunately, will be a theory that goes to rest in theory heaven.
Yeah,
but I wonder if it is metaphorical, like time is running out, we're running out of time. But also I think it's really interesting that you say, well, could they possibly keep it a secret, or will they be contacting the buyers? Because if they don't, this is the first time they have to be dealing with all of this without Elle.
Yeah, because we saw hints of that at the end of season 3, obviously. But actually, no, they technically would they still be doing that? Because as far as we know, Elle doesn't have the powers back. So they will have to do this. So this is going to be an interesting, I mean, I'm going to presume season 4, in some big explosion at the end, she will get them back, or are they going to leave it literally until the right last minute in season 5, if there is one.
David Harbour has no knowledge of a 5th season and is just making jokey comments on a website.
Yeah,
disclaimer.
Just to clear that up, we're not taking David's words. But anyway, I don't know, is it going to be like a big explosion at the end of season 5 then, or what is it gonna be? I don't know, maybe if we are going with kind of like parallel timelines situation, the clocks could be relevant to that, because it could almost be, can one timeline kind of go, this is the hour it's going to happen, and you need to, like, and then it's a case of it could be stopped until that point, but once it reaches that time, that's starts to be intersected. But you haven't watched Dark, so you will not know what I mean. But
I am planning on watching Dark.
Anyone that has watched Dark and they're listening to this, you'll kind of know what I mean when I say that, but I'm not going to say anything more, because massive spoilers, and it is very much a show that you just need to watch and know very little about it. So if you watch Dark, you know what I mean when I say that. If you haven't watched Dark, watch Dark. But no, maybe it's something like that, so that one timeline kind of is like, it's comes out to here, the other timeline doesn't have a clue, but by entering the house, they're somehow figuring that out. Like maybe it's like an intersection.
Yeah, kind of like because in D&D, like if you actually look at like the kind of like the lore of D&D, the upside down, you enter the upside down from a point where the upside down and the real world meet, and that point can just be a completely normal place, a house, a shop, a shed, you know, like Will goes in, and like it's a completely normal place, and it's where the like normal plane meets, and that's that kind of crossover point. So who's to say, like you said, that house isn't one. I do find it interesting that all of the footage we've had of clocks, pretty much the clock has been in the upside down.
Yes, it has. Yeah it hasn't been, I don't know, in that little clip, no, it was still quite dark, wasn't it? That I never actually thought of that, but actually it has. We've never really seen it in our time, or I say our time, but you know, we've never seen it in our what we're believing is the current timeline or realm of the show, so to speak. So that is a point. Maybe it is something like, then maybe there is that cross section and the upside down has been, because I mean, clearly there is some kind of grand plan going on throughout this, and I don't know, because obviously I don't know if I'd like to think we're going to see the Mind Flayer in season 4. This has a point, you'll know what I mean. I'd like to think we're going to see it in season 4, because we did see it in the mashup trailer situation.
We did,
So, and I feel like if it wasn't going to be relevant, they wouldn't put it in there, unless it is literally this is what you've missed over 3 years. But
3 years.
But I don't know, I mean, what actually was the Mind Flayer's plan, for example?
World domination.
But why that particular time? Why then? That is there something overarching that is you know what I mean? Because if the Demogorgons were kind of answering to the Mind Flayer, I'm gonna presume, is the Mind Flayer answering to something else? Are we?
And how aware is it? Like, how much consciousness does the Mind Flayer have?
Like, I think we said before, does it adapt from other people? So the bit that was in Will was obviously locked outside. So did it kind of learn stuff from Will? So when it went into Billy, it was like, I know how to be a person now, essentially. So when I take over Billy, I can be a lot more under wraps and kind of hide. So is it going to be a case of then learning that it can then learn from someone else?
But this is kind of like Age of Ultron, which is Age of Ultron is an influence. We spoke a little bit about Age of Ultron when we did like a whole influence episode. But Age of Ultron is a Marvel movie. It is the second Avengers movie where they all kind of come together. And Ultron started out to be a AI system. So for those that watch the Marvel movies, you know, like you all know about Jarvis and Tony Stark and the stuff that he does. For those that don't watch Marvel, and I know there's a lot of people that actually don't, like I just kind of assume people know what I'm talking about. But Tony Stark is very intelligent, and he has an AI system called Jarvis, which literally stands for just a really very intelligent system. I think is the correct acronym. And Jarvis kind of runs the house, can like open the blinds, turn everything, very aware, can do all these different things. And it's a very unrealistic AI system in the sense that we do not have it on like to our disposal as of yet. It's very clever. He's almost like a person. And in Age of Ultron, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner are trying to make kind of like, it's described as a suit of armor across the world to protect from any extraterrestrial, any outside invasion, because at the end of the Avengers, Tony, like the first one, Tony sees that there are other things beyond our Earth, and he's thinking about protecting it. So they try and run this system. It fails a few times. There's then kind of, he turns off, shuts down the workshop, leaves. Ultron wakes up, so to speak, and essentially at this point he is just a massive mass of coding and just this system put together, and he learns from Jarvis really quickly, because Jarvis is kind of there and is like, my creator is Mr. Stark, I will alert him, and immediately Ultron is able to shut down Jarvis and kill him, essentially. Ultron then like scans the internet, learns about people and things to do, and then he goes through all these different like wires and systems and builds himself a body out of like trashed Iron Man suits and this Iron Legion suit, so then he can walk into the room with the Avengers and talk to them. And this is all in the space of one evening, because he has learned from all of these things that he's encountering and is able to build himself up to be this bigger thing. And as the movie goes on, he keeps doing this to the point when then he almost gets a full body created for him. And that whole situation is kind of how Vision comes out, but Vision isn't Ultron, but he's part Ultron. So it's interesting to me that you say that, when you say, did the Mind Flayer learn a bit from Will, and then he was able to go into Billy, and then it was able to do this and do this, now thinking that Age of Ultron is an influence, because that could potentially be that it keeps getting more powerful because it's learning from things and it's trying to mask. How do we not know that they're still not the Flayed in Hawkins, just acting as people?
I mean, they all did kind of like disintegrate.
They did.
I mean, that is something that they did, which is a bit disgusting. But no, I do know what you mean. That, you know, how do we know that there isn't something else still kind of going on?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to presume so. Otherwise, we wouldn't have season 4. But yeah, I mean, if I've got that right, if I've got that right, you can quote me here at around, it was probably what, 5:10.
Yeah, because I went on a 5-minute rant about Tony Stark and his ability to create AI.
Yeah, 5:10 on the 7th of August. I will take the win. It won't be correct.
No, but I think that's possible. Like, particularly with Age of Ultron being a thing. Like, absolutely. Because I
would think about it in season 2 that he was able to hide, but Will still be able to break through.
Yeah.
In theory, in season 3, Billy couldn't really break through until right at the end, and that was only literally because Elle went in his mind and, you know, did a bit of digging around. So there we go.
I also wonder if it plays on it plays on who you are as a person. Do you know how we've said before about Will being a Horcrux?
Yeah.
Could it be that if you're a good person, you're able to kind of break through, whereas Billy has a lot of
Are
negative.
you saying that Billy isn't a good person? What?
But like Billy has a lot of anger in him, a lot of, there's a lot there with Billy.
A lot of tension.
A lot of tension. So was he sort of able to be consumed quicker?
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of quite interesting. But maybe that is why Age of Ultron is a influence. And I kind of hope that's kind of cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the Mind Flayer would be the main villain in this one, though.
No.
Maybe in a buyer's plot. I don't know. That's only purely because I refuse to believe the neck situation stops. And I feel like, especially with the leg bite that Elle had, and now Will and Elle conveniently living with one another, that there will be something going on there. So I think if there's going to be a Mind Flayer plot, it will be with them, and it will be ongoing that way. Possibly in Russia, because we know they can make a not make a Demogorgon. They can't do that. They can bring the Demogorgon in.
Maybe they can.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe, maybe we're gonna get 3 separate things this time. We'll get the Demogorgons, we'll get the Mind Flayers, and then we'll get whatever
in Hawkins.
Yeah, we'll get clocks in Hawkins.
Get clocks. Animatronic clocks
and clocks. Perfect. That's what's going on actually in season 4.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really interesting teaser because, like we said, it's like 6 seconds, it's barely anything, but I do think what you said is interesting with the kind of what you missed, the kind of almost like that kind of like wrap up of what is there before. I feel like the stuff that they picked there is interesting. Like you said, we see the Mind Flayer, we see like the different experiences that the characters have had, and I wonder if the selection of things that they did in that are kind of tied to things that will happen in season 4. But even though we did only get just a few seconds, there is so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack. Like the internet's kind of exploded, which is kind of cool to see, like how many people have been like theorizing and
exactly.
Yeah.
There's one post that I wish I could find it on Instagram. It was really interesting, but they've said that every single teaser or trailer, whatever it has been, has had Mike's narration in it. So I kind of low-key love the theory that a lot of people have that Mike is writing the book of the show, because obviously it's written in chapters. I wouldn't be surprised if that stuck around, because he was the same in this one, even though it was literally just something's coming. I think it was like a little snippet. I do kind of love that idea, because we always hear his voice, always, every time at the beginning of those teasers.
It's been a book this whole time.
I really think it could be, to be honest, because why would you name it chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 like that?
Yeah, and like why?
And even like the chapter titles, like The Vanishing of Will Byers, that sounds like a chapter title.
Yeah.
Holly Jolly, etc. Why would it be Holly Jolly if Mike wasn't writing it? Because it's about his sister, essentially. That's his sister's name in the title.
No, 100%. And like I think it would be really interesting if it did turn out to be that he'd just like written this whole thing, and like it, because and then if you think about, it's not actually called the Demogorgon, it's not actually called the Mind Flayer. He's using words from things he already knows. So who's to say that it's not going to turn out that essentially like the Duffer Brothers are Mike, like the Duffer Brothers are Mike.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Duffer Brothers were Mike.
Yeah,
I think we said that before, that it's almost like they're, I don't, not to quote South Park in this, but kind of like how in South Park Matt and Trey are Stan and Kyle. Well, they're meant to be essentially the projection of that, they're putting those themselves in it. In that sense, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike was essentially you're us.
Yeah,
would not be shocked.
I just
sorry, you go.
No, I do just think it would be really cool if, like, I mean, if they've been sitting on it this whole time, that like it'll end and then it'll flip back to the thing, and he's like, it was a 7.
Don't. He just closes the book and like, okay, that's it. How have you liked my campaign, everyone? Oh no. We did ask your responses on the teaser. So we've got a few as well. So like the vibe so far. Wish we could have got a bit more info, but glad we have some specifics. I agree. I would have liked a bit more. I mean, we've spoken enough about that. I would have liked to see the buyers. I would have liked to see Joyce. I would like to have seen Mike, but it was nice to kind of see it there. We also got first of all, the US government has finally caught up with Elle and have finally got her, and they're finally filling in plot holes that got filling in plot holes. And then not seeing Mike / Will is very interesting, but also concerning. Yeah, it is intriguing. I stand by that. I think it's odd that we, especially Mike, I can understand Will a bit more. Would have liked to seen him, but whatever. I can understand Will a bit more, but Mike to me still just feels
the only reason. No, I do think it's odd to not show them, but I do feel like they're being not shown for a plot reason rather than they're dead. Because I feel like if they were dead, they just wouldn't show them.
I mean, that would be the biggest twist. Just open season 4. Oh yeah, Mike and Will died.
No, but like if you know, like something bad happens to them,
exactly.
I feel like not showing them would be really weird.
I also feel like only because of the way they are, if they were dying, they would show it in some kind of way in the sneak peek, because it will be that thing of it'll throw you off.
Yeah,
because you'll think surely not that's about to happen.
Yeah,
but then actually,
I just think about the amount of promo Tony Stark got when it came to Endgame.
Yeah.
And that was because, you know, like he wasn't not in trailers because they were going to kill him off. He was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like the first trailer was literally mostly him in space talking to Pepper.
Yeah.
Like in a helmet. And it was like, oh my God, Tony Stark is going to die in space. But he doesn't die in space. But like it throws you off. And it was here's Tony, for then you to get to the very end of the film and then kill him off.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they weren't showing Mike and Will, it's for a plot reason, because their plot is important, rather than they're going to die in episode 5, so we can't show a lot of content because there isn't a lot of content.
I mean, let's not get too ahead of ourselves though. I mean, Will was written out in episode 3. But you know what I mean? Also, it wasn't just Mike and Will we didn't see. We also, as before, we didn't see Jonathan. We didn't see Joyce.
Argyle,
yeah, we didn't see Argyle either. And
Penhurst.
We didn't see any of that thing as well. So unless, I mean, we don't know. It's the Duffer Brothers. Anything could happen. But I think at least until episode 8, because I think there's 9 in season 4, they are maybe alive.
That is our thoughts on the season 4 sneak peek. Obviously you shared some of yours on Instagram, but come and see us on all of our other places to share your thoughts and ideas of what is going on in season 4 of Stranger Things, which we are officially getting in 2022.
As we said, what a ballpark. But in the meantime, if you want to catch up with anything else we've done in the long hiatus, which feels even longer now, actually, we've been told 2022, between seasons 3 and 4, you can find us at many places. And those places, once again, are Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher at Hawkins Do You Copy. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hawkins Podcast, and then on Tumblr and YouTube at Hawkins Do You Copy.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast, and we will see you next week. Over and out.